Month of Brumaire, year 7, from the 23rd of October to the 22nd of November, 1798. Barbarous law against the transporter de fructidor, and the fine words of the orator Rochon. Endeavors of the Jacobin party against the priests. Troubles in several departments. Incertitude of the legislative body. 1. The powers. The situation of the powers with regard to us presented no change in the month of Brumaire except the entry of the Austrians in the country of the Grisons. The imperial minister had offered several times the intervention of his master to protect the government of Coire against the party who desired the reunion of the League of the Grisons with the Helvetic Confederation. This party announced that the French troops were marching towards Retz. Austria thought the time was opportune to awaken. This time she was beforehand with us. Our president thought of retiring to Zurich. The French column, which occupied Schaffhausen, prepared to march towards the Grison Leagues, where they expected to have a serious conflict, when a courier from Paris carried an order not to consider the invasion of Coire by the Austrians as a hostile measure. The Directory feigned to be contented with the assurance which terminated the declaration of the Austrian general. The general commander notifies that the entry of the imperial and royal troops is amicable, pacific, and protective. He protests that it has no other object than to protect with perfect accord and after their own wishes the actual government legally established. The exalted part of the councils disapproved of the moderation of the Directory. We were spoiled by 2 years of victories, and we found it very bad for our enemies to do once that which we did every day. It was, however, perfectly evident that the change in the attitude of Austria announced the resolution to provoke the renewal of hostilities. The Russian army was in the heart of Germany. The insurgents of Ireland, far from being discouraged or gained new strength, several of our vessels departed without accord from Brest and Rochefort, and by showing themselves upon the coast, sustained them with the hope of a better regulated disembarkment. But the coasts, covered everywhere with English troops, were inaccessible. Superior fleets surrounded our vessels, and La Hoche, battered with the cannon of 5 of the enemy's vessels, surrounded and surrendered only after prodigies of valor and intrepidity. The insurgents had no resource left but to entrench themselves in their retreats. There was but one cry in Paris upon the cause of these disasters. No one was ignorant that the delay of funds had prevented the squadron of Bonaparte to set sail at the same time as that of Savory and to land in that part of Ireland, that the English had not yet had time to put in a state of defense. If those funds had time to put in and expedited a few days sooner, it would have rendered the affairs of Ireland very problematic. The success of England may be attributed to the slowness and improvidence of the Directory, as much as to the rapidity of General Cornwallis. 2. The Allied Republics. Among the Allied Republics, the Cisalpine alone occupied us seriously. The General Brune, who had taken the command of our army, disapproved of the innovations and the choice of the ambassador Trouvé. To appease the discontentment, he determined upon changing everything without the concurrence of the new ambassador, Fouché de Nantes. They wrote to us from Milan. We no longer know who we are, where we're going, or who to confide in. All is again overturned in our republic. Sound familiar? This morning the gates of Milan were shut, and we learned that a part of our representatives had given in their resignation, demanding by the General-in-Chief of the Army of Italy, and that they were replaced by those who, not being willing to acknowledge the Constitution of Trouvé, had been put aside. 3 of our directors are equally forced to turn out, confirmed only a few weeks since the French Directory. They were far from expecting this disgrace. They do not know to whom they are to attribute this sudden resolution so contrary to the last events. This nobility has thrown us into the greatest uncertitude. It is well calculated to favor the plots of Austria. They must end by consulting the Cisalpine people if they wish to satisfy reasonable people. We were as much astonished at Paris as they were at Milan. I had already announced that I should demand a secret committee to call upon the Directory when we were informed that the change at Brune was disapproved of, and that to put an end to all these divisions, they were going to consult the Cisalpine people upon the new constitution that had been given by the ambassador Trouvé. That measure by which they ought to have begun caused all complaints to cease. Those whom Brune had deprived of their employments were restored to them. The municipal assemblies united accepted by a very great majority the new charter, and then all pretext for discontent was at an end. It is because the people are sovereign that they can choose the worst party, and that no one has the right to impose the best when they are contented with that which they consider good, nor the good when they prefer the worst. That voting the Cisalpine caused me to regret my opposition to the directorial innovations.